Hello there, I'm Caroline Brown and I'm one of the archivists at the University of Dundee, and I'm going to be talking to you today. This is the first of two short films talking about the role of women in the early years of the institution in what was then called University College Dundee. There had been discussions about establishing a higher education college in Dundee since the 1860s, but it wasn't until 1881 that University College Dundee was founded in these four Georgian buildings on the Nethergate where the Tower building now stands. The main benefactor was a woman, Mary Ann Baxter, who gave £130,000 and later provided an additional £10,000 to build the Carnelli building, which was the first purpose-built building on campus, which housed the chemistry department. Now, Mary Ann Baxter insisted that her endowment was to provide for the education of both men and women, and the college regulations reinforce this, stating all departments are open to both sexes on the same terms. It's likely that Dundee was the first in the UK to do this. Other institutions admitted women, but in separate colleges or barred them from certain courses. During the early years, the proportion of men to women fluctuated and was dependent on a number of factors. You can see here, for example, in 1909, the number of women starts dropping, and that's probably attributed to changes in the requirements of teacher training courses. It became harder for women to attend classes if they didn't take a full degree. And you can see here the impact of the war. So from 1916-17, the number of men and women are the same, and then the number of men drops, with women overtaking men attending University College Dundee by the end of the war. These figures are from the University Calendar, which was published from the first University College Dundee session and acted as a kind of annual report summarising what had happened in the academic year and listing staff and students. And as well as being useful for statistics, you can get quite a good idea of the role that women students played in the early years. Women, right from the start, were securing bursaries, they were getting firsts, and they were being awarded prizes. Etta Johnson, for example, took the chemistry and elementary biology prizes in the 1884 session. She's pictured here in a chemistry class from 1888. Like many of the late 19th century students and staff, she was interested in improving the atrocious living conditions of Dundee's inhabitants, and she published research on this, for example, on the effect of floor deafening on the sanitary condition of dwelling houses. She went on to assist Patrick Geddes in the botany department and was one of the first women paid by University College Dundee to teach. She was a gifted artist who regularly exhibited at the Dundee Fine Art exhibitions, and she contributed drawings to the college magazine. And in the next film, I'll say something about the college magazine. Now, one of Etta's contemporaries, Mary Lily Walker, seen here on the left, she was also academically gifted and she won prizes in a range of subjects. In fact, University College's Professor of Natural History, Darcy Wentworth Thompson, called her an excellent student. Like Etta, she was a member of Dundee's Social Union, which campaigned to improve living conditions and working conditions for Dundee's inhabitants. And she's now probably one of UCD's best remembered students for her pioneering work reporting on the living conditions of Dundee's working classes and for establishing the Grey Watch settlement, which provided care for infants and children and their mothers. Several of the early women students we know went on to publish research and to assist the professors in teaching. Helen Ogilvie, in the picture on the right, published more than 25 papers on botany, and she was an expert in marine phytoplankton. And she assisted Darcy Wentworth Thompson drawing diagrams for his seminal publication on growth and form. However, despite this, and despite the college owing its existence to a woman, women didn't seem to take much part in the governance of University College Dundee. There were no women listed as early trustees or no women serving on the college council, but women were involved in other ways. From 1889, the first women appear on the list of governors. You could become a life governor if you gave a donation of £50 or upwards. And this is how women contributed to education. The early college relied on donations for equipment and for expansion, and women were involved in giving money. In the 1890s, a Miss Harris funded a bursary for students, and in the first decade in the 20th century, Miss Simons helped to buy Ellenbank, which is now number 1 Perth Road. You can see sort of in the middle of the picture on the left. And Mrs. Garden and Miss Peters contributed money for electrical engineering, which led to the building of the Peters Lab, which you can see here as part of the Geddes Quadrangle. It took a long time for University College Dundee to officially employ female staff in any significant numbers. In 1889, the first woman member of teaching staff, a Miss Jack, is listed in the calendar as teaching fine art. And while we know that the likes of Etta Johnson were helping with classes, it's not until 1910 to 11 session that another female member of staff is recorded. And in fact, in that session there were 2, Jean Waterston as assistant librarian, and the woman that you can see here, Doris McKinnon, as assistant lecturer in natural history. McKinnon assisted Darcy Wentworth Thompson, drawing diagrams and encouraging him in his writing of On Growth and Form. She became very well regarded in her own right as lecturer and for her work on protozoology. And from 1916, she joined a team of researchers working for the War Office and the Medical Research Committee. And her role involved the diagnosis and treatment of amenic dysentery and other protozoal infections in military hospitals in Liverpool and Southampton. Now, after Darcy Wentworth Thompson, who was the Professor of Natural History at the time, left Dundee in 1917, she ran the National History Department herself, but she was never given the recognition and she was never made a professor. She moved to King's College London, perhaps because of this, and she was finally given the recognition she deserved and made Professor of Zoology in 1927 as London's first female professor. So thank you for watching. I hope you found that interesting, and I hope that you can join me for the second film, where we'll be finding out a little bit more about attitudes to women in the early years, particularly attitudes that were displayed in the college magazine. So hopefully see you then.